Test. Is that all right?
Better, thank you.
All right, I'll call to order the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. We are in the James H. Crocker Jr. Hearing Room on the second floor of Town Hall at 367 Main Street, Hyannis. To all persons interested in or affected by the action of the Zoning Board of Appeals, you're hereby notified pursuant to Section 11 of the Chapter 48 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and all amendments hereto that a public hearing on the following appeals will be held today, Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. Introduction of board members. To my left, Mark Hansen.
Present.
Natalie Pittenger.
Present.
Herb Odenseek.
Present.
Myself, Jacob Dewey. And Larry Hurwitz.
Present.
And we're missing Rodney Tavano. Oh, here he is. To my left, Rodney Tavano.
Yep.
All right. Notice of recording this meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals is being recorded and broadcast the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20. I must inquire whether anyone is recording this meeting. If so, please make their presence known. Seeing none. First order of business was minutes from February 12th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. First item is old business. In appeal number 2024-050, Tim McNamara, DBA Holistic Health Group, has applied for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-30 Medical Marijuana Overlay District. The applicant proposes to operate a medical marijuana treatment center licensed through a host community agreement with the town council with the purpose of conducting patient dispensary sales. The subject property is located at 120 Airport Road, Hyannis, Mass, as shown on Assessor's Map 294 as parcel 014. It's located in the Industrial IND zoning district. This has been continued from January 22nd, 2025, February 26th, 2025, and members assigned myself, Herb Bodenseek, Paul Pinard, Mark Hansen, and Aaron Webb. Paul is not here tonight, and Aaron is not here, but Larry did attend all the meetings, so Larry would be sitting on this and voting on this tonight if we come to a vote. Mr. McNamara, when you're ready.
Thank you once again to the board. It's nice to see you all in person. Come down here to Town Hall and hopefully resolve remaining issues. If it's up to me to decide those, I suppose that the one outstanding thing that we had discussed at the last hearing was comment from the chief of police regarding the security plan. Jim Kupfer, director of planning, was able to accomplish in a couple of days what I could not in a month. So I appreciate the town's assistance in making contact with the chief. And so she did receive, we confirmed she received my documentation regarding security, all of the details pertaining to state regulations concerning a medical marijuana treatment center. And I tried my best at this early stage to tailor the nature and detail of those requirements to the subject property. And the chief did respond to via the planning department with some comments. Some of them were open-ended questions. However, I believe, I responded sort of immediately to those, indicating that I responded in kind to her questions about some details. A lot of her questions were already covered, again, by state regulations, so I pointed out where those details could be found in the regulations, and also made sure that they would appear in the security plan that I submitted to her. So I suppose I would like to know if the board has any remaining questions about that particular requirement.
Were there any questions outside of what was mandated by the state regulation that were not answered, or can you give an example of anything that was kind of left on the table?
So the state generally requires that we remain in contact with local law enforcement about details pertaining to the facility. It doesn't require that the chief take a tour. However, I'm happy to oblige in that respect. It does speak to more about if there is an incident that's so something that we call in the industry called diversion, where if cannabis somehow ends up in the hands of someone who either didn't purchase it, didn't have a patient card in this instance, or in the hands of a minor. Well, typically not in the hands of a minor. If our inventory tracking software reflects a discrepancy that we cannot resolve, then there is a mandatory report to local law enforcement as well as to the state commission within 24 hours of discovery of that discrepancy. I think that was a question that she had asked for, and again, what was in the state regs. I'm trying to think other details. She actually identified something that I had missed, where in my security plan I had listed that only registered agents who are employees of the company, who also go through an extensive, not just a Corey check, but a nationwide background check for any offenses that are red flags by the regs. So obviously, low-level traffic offenses don't count. Felonies are disqualifying. So our employees, as well as are permitted in the back of the house. Registered patients are admitted or admittable into the sales floor, and everyone else has to be a registered guest. So that would be, it could be an electrical contractor or anyone else that needs to be on the property for any reason. She had asked or asserted that law enforcement should be able to visit without being a registered guest. And in fact, that is in the regulations, where local law enforcement, when carrying out their duties in law enforcement, are able to go onto the premises, go into any areas that they deem necessary. So I had answered her question, that is certainly something we would allow for. Beyond that, I think she had asked, so I had given, as I told the board, a lieutenant and a detective from the department a full tour of our production and sales facility in Middleborough. Lieutenant Kelsey, or Detective Kelsey, had described to her the green waste processing plan, which is whenever there is waste generated. In other words, cannabis that is somehow contaminated, falls on the floor, it needs to be quarantined and then needs to be ground up in a condition and then mixed with an inert material so that it be unusable and locked until a licensed waste processor can take it off the premises. She indicated that so long as the policy of this location was the same as in Middleborough, that it should be good. The difference between, just for context of the board, we grow cannabis at that facility, so the amount of waste that we're generating is much higher volume. We're talking all the stems, all the leaves daily need to be trimmed and taken and ground up, whereas in a retail facility, nothing, again, the worst that can happen is something falls on the floor in the process of a sales transaction, which is pretty rare. Or if a supplier issues a quarantine order, then we would need to destroy it. Or if there's an expiration of product, we would need to destroy it. But they're sort of routine tasks rather than any kind of major event. So.
Yeah. And there was no request from the chief to preview the building as is, or there was no ask at the end. I know it was just a communication, but there was nothing put forth that this would have to happen in order to move forward. So at this point, there's no action item, correct, other than answering the questions?
That's correct. I think she had generally stated that it may be too early of a stage for it to be worthwhile for her to visit. It's in the condition that it's been as a restaurant. And certainly, the door is open anytime. I had indicated to Detective Kelsey that he's welcome to come by, but he had no real interest in doing so. I think he'd been to Barbian's in the past. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Do we have a copy of the chief's comments?
I believe they're in
I
the folder.
guess you do not. This was an email exchange. I was directed by Director Kupfer to respond to the planning department with my comments. And that's, so I think perhaps Anna can pull it up.
Well, there's the narrative to the
These are the, yeah, this
revised
is,
security plan.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can re-forward my comments if it helps.
So was that sent back to the chief?
Oh, I'm sorry, so this is my response. So these are her questions with my responses in kind. So she had asked, the waste management plan is what I had just described. Chris said the Middleborough system was good, so Hyannis should be similar. And so I responded with the detail and citation. This question, number 2, she wanted clarification on the presence of staff in the vaults where inventory is stored. The phrase that she questioned was, how do you decide how long is necessary for staff to be present in the vault? And this is a business decision, so vault is typically for picking and packing orders on a on-demand basis at, for the patient at the register. There are other activities that take place in a vault. For example, if anytime flour is provided to, flour, is marijuana. It's just dried marijuana, which is the most common form of consumption. Anytime a package of flour that is, packaged and fulfilled for the purpose of a patient arrives from an origin to the facility, we are required as the medical dispensary to affix a sticker indicating that this product was sold at this location. So this is an example of, if you can imagine 500 containers of flour, somebody needs to put stickers on that flour, and the best location to do that is in the vault. So that person, in this instance, would be someone who would spend more time in the vault than someone who is simply at a register, receiving an order for one package and going into the vault to retrieve that package for the patient. So I have a quick paragraph that described that. Number 3, this is the question regarding who has access to the facility without being a registered guest. In particular, she wanted that law enforcement should be entitled to enter the premises. And again, that is explicitly laid out in the regulations that law enforcement can enter the building and the back of house. This is the question about an incident reporting. So I think she wanted details. So I think the challenge for law enforcement is that a lot of times they'll encounter a robbery at a convenience store that has cameras that are sort of nominal, or there's a surveillance in name only. The images may not be clear. Law enforcement, I think, frequently encounters issues with retrieving that footage in a timely manner. The state's requirements for our surveillance system is both more comprehensive in coverage as well as very clear. We have inspectors who will come in and ensure that any entrance and exit has clarity and definition sufficient to identify the individual that's coming in. And again, the inspectors also require that when they come on site, that they can walk away with any image that they choose. And so their process normally is they'll come in. There's a 90-day storage requirement, so they would come in and ask us to review footage from 88 days ago. They would take an image and they'd say, "Give me that image," and we would provide it to them. And that's how they ensure that the operation is able to provide immediate access to surveillance images. So the last one aspirational when the property is available for inspection. Chris, Kelsey, and I can do a walkthrough. He did not believe it was at this stage, which it's available, but again, there's nothing to see in terms of the security plan.
Are you required to have exterior cameras too?
There are exterior cameras, yeah. So there needs to be lighting sufficient, again, for the coverage to be effective. And all corners of just like inside the facility, there can be no area of the curtilage, the immediate curtilage around the foundation that can be a gap. So the state will check on that.
Any other questions regarding the security plan? So did the chief, she didn't respond, you sent her those responses, and then she didn't respond to that? Is that where we are with it?
That's correct. I was not asked to send them directly to the chief. I sent them to the planning department. I believe what she had done was do her part as required by the ordinance.
So do we feel that, I guess it's a question for the board, but do we feel that she said it was adequate? Because the bylaw says security plan shall be submitted to the chief of police, which the applicant has done, who shall provide written comment to the board as to the adequacy or inadequacy of the security provisions of the plans. Did she confirm that they were adequate, do we think?
I think by just having those questions and answers.
Mr. Chair, we could look to the first question where she said something about it being good. So there is some indication that she has approved and simply wanted clarification.
Okay, it's just a question for the board. Go ahead, Natalie.
So, yeah, I have a question on the, when she's talking about she wants instant access to the security film or picture or whatever it is.
Yes.
So they just don't want to wait, any amount of time. So was that your answer to that? Was it does provide immediate access to law enforcement?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Just make sure your microphone's on, I guess. I don't.
I did? Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I was thinking the same, that the questions appear to be logically answered by state statute, each one. There were none that were not answered by state statute, correct? I believe, the way it was worded.
I believe so. I provided citations on my answers where I could. I don't remember if I provided citations to every answer. We could look at it again. But yeah, I mean, every question for the most part is covered by a detail in the statute. And
I mean, again, like, I mean, the plan is pretty sufficient. It's just, I just wish the chief had said that the plan is adequate, because that's what the ordinance is asking us for. That,
But she didn't
and I
send it
don't
to
feel
us.
like she sent
right?
that to us to
No.
say that. But, I mean, yeah, again, it's I get our discretion here, I think, I guess, to figure out if that's satisfactory.
if I read it to the letter, the chief of police who shall provide written comment to the board. So she fulfilled her obligation to the board. And I think her questions were getting at the adequacy or inadequacy of it.
Yeah.
She's not required to make an adjudication on that.
Does everyone feel comfortable with it? I mean,
If we can make the connection between the board and planning as the town, are we
well, it
saying
says
that
chief
essentially?
of, the ordinance says chief of police has to,
To the
the
board.
chief of police has to provide a written comment to the board
Board, right.
as to the adequacy or inadequacy of the security provisions and plans.
Right.
Again, I'm just, we just have to check these boxes, and I'm just trying to make sure we're checking them, and we still are left in this kind of gray area right now, but that's one thing. And then I guess the other thing is, I don't know if you can respond to the public comment we received, which I'm happy to reference into the record. Public comment is still open, but from the Mr. Bricklin regarding the abutting
Yeah.
property.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So this was detail that was covered in greater detail during site plan review. The parking areas that are available to the property or that the property has available to use to its for its purpose is more than adequate. There are 37 spaces, whereas the requirement based on our proposed square footage is 23 parking spaces. So even if we were somehow able to dramatically increase the floor space, we should be well within those guidelines on the subject of parking. The second detail that we covered concerned the details of the buffer. So a straight line analysis, without, I guess taking this step by step, a straight line analysis which is required by the ordinance from the front door or the entrance of the subject property to the entrance of any of these businesses that are listed. In my estimation, Anna, is it possible to pull up the image? I just redid, or I took an all-over snapshot today to demonstrate that the straight line analysis from door to door is about 510 to 520 feet. This one particular dimension shows 520. The front door is somewhere in the center of that building, so that would be compliant, but also the ordinance reflects that if there's an impermissible barrier in the way of that straight line, that the analysis would be is to use an alternate measurement, which would be the public right of way, which is by the road, which would be somewhere around 700 or 800 feet to get from door to door. The impassable barrier, I was just going to ask if Anna could pull up that other, I pulled up a definition from the regulations on that, because I think this is important. Didn't look like that before. Can you scan down? Maybe that will go away. Huh. Oh,
Here we
there we
go.
go. So if you scan down to the eyes, yeah, it's coming in. So there we are, up a little bit more.
Right there.
So impassable barrier means for the purposes of determining the buffer, highway, public, private, or inaccessible structure, body of water, or other obstruction that renders any part of this line. So the ordinance refers to the regulations, and the definition here says, I guess I would use the inaccessible structure or other obstruction that renders the distance inaccessible by a pedestrian or automobile. So I hope that's clear enough for the board that you can't walk through that building. We looked at even walking around the building, and it's really not suitable for any pedestrian. It's bramble and hillside that goes into the retention pond below. The other part of this is, Anna, if you would be able to pull up the other citation I have in here. The ordinance that Barnstable adopted was from the original, so if you scroll down a little bit to that buffer zone. The ordinance that we incorporated here in Barnstable was from the original 2012 law. And I think I talked about this in an earlier hearing, but the 2012 law had this sort of loose definition. So it said, schools, daycare, after school, or areas where children commonly congregate. And that quickly became problematic in every, in many jurisdictions. And if you could think of a city, for example, where do children commonly congregate? How do we meet that definition? So in the new definition, and this is from November of 2024, but it's been gone for quite some time, they only really require that the buffer apply to a school in particular. I realize that doesn't change the ordinance, but if you look at the character of the ordinance and the character of businesses recited, we're talking about places officially where children are, for their care. So this is daycare, schools, and after-school areas, and places where children commonly congregate. In order to give any meaning to that, you'd have to give some guidelines, and I think that a gym that happens to have programs for children from time to time, which is what Mr. Bricklin identified, probably wouldn't meet that definition. But that is obviously something the board could interpret. That's my opinion, and I think my earlier analyses regarding the straight line and the impassable barrier and the need to take a public way are probably more dispositive in this instance. But I'm happy to hear comments from the board if there's other opinions.
Go ahead, Natalie.
Yeah, I have a comment. Anna, can you bring the map back up?
Do we have the context map, Anna? Is that in there? I was trying to find it. Because that should have all of it on it.
Yeah, so my question is, on that one, it looks like it's the entrance on Airport Road, and then it goes over to the Ninja Place, but it looks like the black line goes way down to the end of the building, where the actual entrance to the Ninja building is on the inner side of it. In other words, it would be on the left side of the building. So I don't know how wide that building is, but it's very wide.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking about 512 feet, and the limit being 500, you might be under the 500.
When I looked at the building, we entered through the front. We actually met with the owner of the gym, and she came to visit the facility. She had no objections. I think one thing that is a misunderstanding here is that children will somehow be able to access this building. Unlike a liquor store, you're not going to find even able to look into the building without getting access as a patient to enter the premises. I am uncertain where the analysis should run as to which door, but I can tell you that it does run straight through a building. So that's my best explanation of how this analysis should go. I'm not sure if you have an altering opinion as to whether that building qualifies as a barrier that is not impassable.
I'm not sure what you mean by which building. Oh, this one. Yeah, okay, so the thing on that one is, so the medical building, that has a pathway right down to the back of the building. So I don't see that as any kind of an impassable thing. There's a pathway. You can just walk right down to the back of the building, and then you're right next to the Ninja Place. There's some brush and things there, yes, but it takes you right down there.
I apologize. I didn't find it passable, but I think that the ordinance that we're talking about reflects a straight line analysis. So you can't take a left and then a right. You have to take a straight line from the door to the next door, which, if you're saying is on the other side of the building, I'm not aware of that door, but the building is still obstructed by the impassable barrier in this instance.
Okay, so, all right, so you're calling the middle building the impassable barrier?
Correct, yep.
I know, okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, all right, I didn't realize that that's what you were calling the impassable barrier. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because it is, and again, there is a path going right beside it, right down toward the back of the building, so, I don't know, to me, that makes it pretty inviting, but nonetheless, whatever anybody else thinks.
I mean, I guess the only thing, the context map, do we have a context map? What was that the aerial, was it the context map in that plans, the aerial photograph, page 4 in the plans? Is that what was submitted as a context map?
Yeah, we had, the above one, I believe, yes. That one, the analysis was done with respect to the church, which is explicitly named in the ordinance, a religious, place of religious worship. That was the only place we had identified at the time as being relevant to the ordinance as a type of business. So that was a context map. And that was really the only concern prior to today, I suppose. When we had drafted this amendment, it was believed that that was the only conflicting building at the time. So the ordinance previously read that the buffer was 1,000 feet, which pretty much rendered this entire overlay district superfluous. In other words, no place would be located here. So it was decided that we reduce the buffer to 500 feet to allow at least a couple of properties the opportunity to be reflected in this overlay district. And so that was the analysis we did at the time. The gym, again, as a good neighbors, we spoke to everyone, offering them an opportunity to speak to us directly and to see the subject property. The owner of the gym happened to be one of the individuals who took us up on that and had no objections.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm just, in looking at under FD, it's asking for a scaled map depicting all properties and land uses within a 2,000-foot radius of the project site, whether such is located within Barnstable or surrounding communities. Is that
Yeah,
the
I
next
think
one? I mean, again, it just doesn't identify. It has some things on it, but
Well, here's a larger context map where
Yeah.
you're able to see other properties and businesses. We had spoken to the building commissioner subsequent to this, just to check on whether, he was aware. We discussed it at length, but I believe it was the building commissioner in the context of site plan review that was able to confirm these details to move it to this board for the purpose of a special permit. We did answer these questions at that point. I believe the board was satisfied. And again, we called the building commissioner just to confirm that, in fact, they had been aware of and addressed these details in the approval for site plan.
okay. Does anyone else have questions? Public comment's still open. I believe we only received that one letter in, is that correct? That's new? From Mr. Bricklin, who's a co-owner of 96 Airport Road LLC.
I also responded to Mr. Bricklin directly, and he is a co-owner with Toby Leary of the building next door. But, we opened the conversation with him, and I'm happy to discuss with him any details in person if he would like any more details.
What's everyone's desire here? We can close public comment and we can deliberate.
Public comment?
Oh, yeah, yep. Go ahead, please come up. Sorry.
What am I putting, a phone number or what am I? Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Betty Ludke. I'm a resident of the village of Hyannis, where this is going to be located. And I just wanted to speak to a couple things. One, there's two things going on right now. There's a citizen's petition for a recreational dispensary, and then there's this medical one. And I'm really in support of the medical one. I'm totally against the recreational one. And I hope, just for the people watching and for you guys, to really separate that. We have and I'll also speak, I am a veteran. We have a large veteran population on Cape Cod. This would be the only dispensary here. And I think it's important that we listen to the folks who have a medicinal use for this, and I think it's helped a lot of veterans, and that we keep this in mind, that this is medicinal, and this is the third time this applicant has been back. And I just want to say, as a resident of the village of Hyannis, I welcome this into Hyannis. There's a lot of things I don't welcome into Hyannis, but this one I do. I think the siting is quite good off of Route 132, which would get access for folks. And it's in an area that you don't have a lot of children congregating, so to speak. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to this? All right, seeing none, do we want to close public comment?
I think
Is
so at this
everyone?
point.
Okay,
Everybody okay with that?
yep.
Motion to close public comment?
I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So public comments closed. It brings it back to the board for deliberation. Does someone want to make findings? I mean, the police chief thing is still like a little bit, would have been really nice if she had sent us a letter on her letterhead saying, I had reviewed this and find it adequate, et cetera, which is what the ordinance asks for.
Mr. Chairman, I was wondering, is there a possibility to just add it to conditions, or is it not?
I don't know. I would
Is that
defer to
something
Ann
that
on
can happen, Anna, or is it?
I mean, it's a requirement
It's a
of the
requirement,
special
but
permit.
we do oftentimes put requirements in our conditions.
That would be up to the board.
It might just solidify, because that would have to be in order.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could condition it before the permit was issued.
Excuse me. I think he's tried like 3 times.
I know.
So how do we?
But again,
make-
that's out, I mean, that's outside of our
Yeah. Well,
control.
all I'm saying is, how do we force the chief to answer his questions? And
Yeah, I mean, Jim was able to get a response get her to respond to it. She
We
just
we
didn't,
could
but-
have, we could maybe direct through planning that we do need an actual written, on the chief's letterhead, and that has, if we conditioned it that way, then it's,
Yeah,
make a condition of the approval. Anybody have thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that's probably agreeable. Again, this is the first time we've tackled this special permit here, and maybe it needs some review at some point, but
Only because when I read the response, or when I read the questions aren't necessarily, they're sort of, it sounds like checking the boxes type of questions versus true concern. What was there? Obviously, she'd like to see it in the end.
yeah.
But I think just maybe conditioning it with that in there, just add it as a number, whatever that is, 6, or
So do you want to make findings?
I can try.
So we'll close the public hearing. So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public hearing's closed. Mark's going to make findings.
So it's very slow load. Okay. With regard to special permit number 2024-050 McNamara Holistic Health Group, 240-30 Medical Marijuana Overlay District. Tim McNamara, DBA Holistic Health Group, has applied for a special permit pursuant to Section 240-30 Medical Marijuana Overlay District. The applicant proposes to operate in a medical marijuana treatment center licensed through a host community agreement with the town council. with the purpose of conducting patient dispensary sales. The subject property is located at 120 Airport Road, Hyannis, Massachusetts, as shown on Assessors Map 294 as parcel 014 is located in the Industrial IND zoning district. For all special permits, the board is required to make general findings, excuse me, pursuant to 240-125C. The board should review the evidence presented by the applicant, staff, and members of the public, and after weighing such evidence, is encouraged to articulate if and how the evidence contributes to each of the required findings. The application falls within a category specifically accepted in the ordinance for a grant of a special permit. Section 240-30 allows for a special permit. 2, after an evaluation of all the evidence presented, the proposal fulfills the spirit and intent of the zoning ordinance and would not represent a substantial detriment to the public good or the neighborhood affected. A site plan has been reviewed and found approvable in accordance with Article 9 herein, subject only to the issuance of a special permit. See letter dated December 10th, 2024. Further, Section 240-30F2 requires that the board find that a medical marijuana treatment center complies with all requirements of this section, including but not limited to subsections E and F in their entirety. B, the medical marijuana treatment center is located to serve an area that currently does not have a reasonable access to medical marijuana, or if it is proposed to serve an area that is already served by other medical marijuana treatment centers. It has been established by the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission that supplemental service is needed, and it has been established by the applicant that this does not exist currently. C, the site is designed such that it provides convenient, safe, and secure access and egress for clients and employees arriving to and leaving from the site using all modes of transportation, including drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, and public transportation users, which has been demonstrated by the applicant. D, traffic generation generated by client trips, employee trips, and deliveries to and from the medical marijuana treatment center shall not create a substantial adverse impact on nearby residential uses. The placement of this facility is in more of a industrial area and does not appear to be adverse in that aspect. E, where necessary to shield adjacent uses, the Zoning Board of Appeals may require buffering by fencing, vegetation, or other screening methods. Nothing has been proposed by the board at this time. 3, prohibition on transfer. The special permit shall be issued to the owner of the medical marijuana treatment center and shall not transfer with a change of ownership of the business and or property. Number 4, limitation of approval. A special permit authorizing the establishment of a medical marijuana treatment center shall be valid only for the registered entity to which the special permit was issued and only for the site on which the medical marijuana treatment center has been authorized by special permit. If the registration for a medical marijuana treatment center has been revoked, transferred to another controlling entity, or relocated to a different site within the medical marijuana overlay district, a new special permit shall be required prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Number 5, revocation or non-renewal. 5A, in accordance with 935 CMR 501-103, 4, expiration and renewal of licensure. All materials submitted pursuant to the MTC compliance with that section shall also be submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals record file. The board reserves the right to hold a public hearing based on a review of the materials showing inconsistencies with special permit conditions and or the requirements and standards of this section. B, in accordance with 935 CMR 501-.10518, requirements on the expiration, revocation, or voiding of certificate of licensure of MTC. Should Cannabis Control Commission take action under this section, the special permit shall be null and void. Those are my findings.
All right, Mark has made findings to approve 2024-050.
I will,
Sorry.
I will second that.
Hold on, microphone wasn't on. Mark has made findings to approve appeal number 2024-050. I need a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of approving based on Mark's findings?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and then conditions.
Would you like me to read the conditions in their entirety?
You can
Maybe on
reference
this
them,
one?
but then we're probably going to add a 6th.
Yes, okay. Should the board find to grant a special permit number 2024-050, request to operate a medical marijuana treatment center licensed through a host community agreement with the town council with the purpose of conducting patient dispensary sales. The subject property is located at 120 Airport Road, Hyannis, Mass. We have special permit conditions number 1 through 5, and we'd like to add number 6, stating that written
Confirmation of adequacy.
confirmation
Of adequacy of the security plan from the police chief be submitted
be submitted and received by the town
before.
in writing
Yeah.
prior to issuing the permit.
And the only thing I was sort of considering is that the buffers between the lots be maintained. I don't know what everyone's feelings are that, but just, where the ordinance gives us a lot of options to create required buffers or required landscape buffers or fence buffers, which we have not, because I think there's sufficient already there, but I guess I would condition that they be maintained at a similar level as long as the permit's in existence, kind of thing.
This is the parking buffer or the
Just
buffer
between
by
the
parking?
lots.
Okay.
Again, just because I think the intent of the ordinance is to keep that, if we needed to, we could have said we want a 8-foot fence and a landscape buffer, blah, blah, blah. We have not. And so I feel like the existing buffer is sufficient, but I just want to make sure it gets maintained. In
Are
between.
we adding that as a
I would add it as a
7?
condition if the applicant's
As a
okay
7?
with it. Is that
Have any issue?
agreeable?
Yeah, that's agreeable. I do have a question, and I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah.
No, please.
The application this entire time has reflected that it is my application, DBA, Holistic Health Group, but I am the president of a corporation, so I don't want it to, and the corporation is the holder of the medical license that is the requisite here. I don't want to get caught up in an issuance of a non-entity. I mean, I could go to town hall tomorrow morning and get a DBA Holistic Health Group, and that would satisfy it, but I'm just, I guess, asking the board, should we make this reflect that this is a corporation and I am the president that is applying, or do you see a problem with that? I'm going to have to record this at the Registry of Deeds, and they can be problematic depending on which department you go to, so.
And I would defer to you on that. I mean, this is how it's been noticed, right? And
So the decision should be holistic? Or the decision, what should it be under?
Holistic Health Group
Okay.
Incorporated.
Okay,
Yeah, that's all.
okay.
yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we just changing that on 1 is essentially
And you're
what's
still the
happening?
principal of Holistic Health Group,
I am.
so I think it's fine.
It's one and the same.
Yeah, that's fine. That'll be reflected on the decision.
Thank you.
But it does reflect any transfer or,
Right, and that would.
It's still the same principle. I mean, it already
Right.
says DBA, Holistic Health Group, so.
okay.
I mean, again, a DBA is very easy to get. I want this board to be aware that they're issuing because in order to get through medical licensure, you have to be, an entity that goes through many vetted processes, and so we don't want it.
Can I ask a question? What is is it the same entity as owns the other one?
Correct.
And
yeah.
what is that called? Same?
Holistic Health Group Incorporated.
Okay.
Yes, the requirement for a medical operator in the state is that you grow, manufacture, and sell, and you have to do all 3 of those things. So we do that in Middleborough. This will only be a patient dispensary for sales to patients. No other activities are proposed, just for the public reference.
So it's not technically DBA. It is an entity.
It's a corporation. We pay taxes. Excuse me.
Kind of the same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're basically adding
I mean,
numbers.
basically, the DBA didn't need to be there.
It
could have
didn't need
been
to be
Tim
there.
McNamara
Slash.
representing Holistic Health Group, Inc.
Yes,
is requesting
because that
this.
is an actual, you're not going to get a DBA. You're already an entity.
Right. I
Okay.
mean, there are I'm just saying, like, I when I get down the line in terms of compliance, these things might come up, and I'm trying to not have to come back to you all to.
Well, could we say as principal of or Holistic
Yeah.
Health Group
Yeah, it's just
Incorporated?
We
or-
need, for the state's purpose, the special permit is probably fine, but especially when we get to the host community agreement, that will need to be issued to Holistic Health Group Incorporated.
Are you a manager on that, or are you considered principal? Like, are you
I'm the
manager?
president, which is
Okay.
the same as a manager in an
Yep.
LLC context, yeah.
Yep,
President,
okay.
general counsel, I do all kinds of things, actually.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I think that's fine.
Is that fine? Yeah.
All right, so do we have our conditions? Okay, we're good, okay.
Okay, for 6
So-
and 7.
All right, so we'll vote on the conditions. All those in favor?
Aye.
So it is approved.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. McNamara. Thank you for,
That's it?
that's it.
All right, I'll miss you all. I appreciate this.
And I mean, maybe reach out to Jim to ping Chief Chalice to
Yeah.
try to just.
I will, of
We just
course.
need I think the file just needs to have a letter saying she's satisfied with it.
I know, I will. Jim-
Again, we're just trying to go by the way the ordinance is written, and it's very clear as a requirement, so.
Yeah, Jim seems to be able to accomplish anything, so
Yeah.
I'll go through him. Thank you
Awesome.
all.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, so appeal number 2025-002, Hyannis LSOF Investment LLC have petitioned for a variance pursuant to section 240-63A, E, and H. Signs in the residential districts and sections 240-65A, C, D, F, and G in the B, HB districts. Petitioner seeks a variance for additional signage related to hotel and resort in order to add 6 additional signs, specifically a Land Shark Bar and Grill proposed signage, which is 31.5 square feet, a Margarita Spa proposed signage, which is 11.1 square feet, a Compass Rose Ballroom and Spa proposed sign, which is 14.3 square feet, and a Finn City Arcade sign, which is proposed to be 22.2 square feet, and a Fins Up Water Park proposed sign, which would be 27.8 square feet. And at Fins Up Water Park, a freestanding sign that's 25.5 square feet. Summary property is located at 1225 Ino Road, Route 132, Hyannis, Mass. As shown on Assessor's Map 273 as parcels 023 and 122. It's located in the Business B, Highway HB, and Residence C1, RC1 zoning districts. So sitting on this will be regular members, myself, Herb, Mark, and Natalie, do you want to sit on this?
Sure.
Oh, wait, we need one more. Rod, do you want to sit on this?
Sure.
All right.
Denied. No, joking.
All right. Attorney Rodolakis.
Yes.
Whenever you're ready.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Alex Rodolakis. I'm here on behalf of the applicant tonight. And with me, I have 2 representatives. I have Ryan Connors and Brian Anderson as well. And I have an additional little handout. Where did that go? An aerial that I printed today to show what we're looking at. May help a little bit in addition to the map that I have. All right, so getting back to it, we're here tonight seeking some variances from the town, particularly to add 6 signs and to add the total square footage of signage to about 212 square feet from 100 square feet, which is under the town sign code. Right now, the property, it's the former Cape Cod Resort. It's been the Margaritaville Resort. It opened at the end of 2024. If you recall, the Cape Cod Resort had definitely more than 2 signs on it. We're talking about a 253,000 square foot facility on 12 and a half acres. It's on 2 parcels of land, one of which the Zero Settlers Lane. And when you look at your map, you'll see it there is actually just a parking lot. A sliver of land that's just a parking lot on one corner of it that they use. So we're seeking to add 2 signs. Right now, if you've driven by the property on 132, there are 2 signs there right now. There's the main entrance sign, and there's also a road sign on 132. I think this part of 132 may be the biggest road in the town. It's actually 5 lanes, 2 lanes going out of Hyannis, and 3 lanes going into Hyannis. The 3 on this side, abutting the property, the closest to the property, are 3. It's also on a corner on Bursa's Lane. If you look at the map there, that part of Bursa's Way, rather, is, I think, actually could be 4 lanes, maybe 5, or definitely it's 3. It's 3 lanes coming up, 1 lane going out. So we're seeking to add signage. If you want to go to the sign map now that we did, which is one of the exhibits, if anybody needs one, I'm happy to give. I have extras of the whole application if that helps anybody tonight. Because it is that one, but if someone wants one, so you don't have to share, I have an extra if anybody would like one. Yeah. I'm old school. Paper always works better for me. So if we look at your sign map here and we go around, we've indicated where the existing signs are. And if we can go to help me kind of clockwise around the property. So we have your existing sign, the road sign, existing sign over the lobby, your main entrance. We're seeking now to add, going this way, sign A, which is going to be, your sign for the Land Shark Bar and Grill. This facility resort has 9 dedicated, at least 9. So we have 276 guest rooms here. We have the indoor water park, which is now fins up. We have 3 dining options, Land Shark being the largest, which is year-round, over 200 seating for over 200 people. We have a fitness center, a spa, a conference and event facility, and an arcade. So there's a lot of things going on in this project, which is wonderful. A wonderful opportunity for resort, people coming down to stay, also residents of the town or day visitors who want to use the water park, dine at one of the facilities that are open to the general public. But again, going back to our sign map, we have 2 signs right now, both on 132. We want to add sign A, which is the Land Shark Bar and Grill, which would abut this part of 132. Again, 5 lanes. Sign B, which is marked there, which is going to show the spa, the spa sign, which is Saint Somewhere, I believe. These are all building signs, not on the road. They're all on the building. Then we come around the corner here. Now we're kind of on the Bursa's Way side. We have sign C, which is going to be the spa again, but also the Compass Ballroom, which I think has been well known. It used to be for every prom, I think, in the town of Barnstable. That's where they had the prom for years and years and years. Sign F is the only other road sign for going there, and that's just a sign showing you this is the water park, the fins up. No other signs on this part of Bursa's Way. And then we're going to keep going clockwise past noon. We're coming the other side. And now we're on, if you look at your map, this is the side here that actually abuts the police station and some wooded lot. It doesn't front on a road. It's actually probably, there may not be, these are going to be signs on the building. They're not road signs. They're probably mostly directional to people show you've reached the arcade or you've reached the point in the building where the Fins Up Water Park is located. And, you know, the Fins Up Water Park, I think, is over 20,000 square feet. It's a pretty substantial indoor water facility. And, again, used all year round. So we're here seeking to add these 6 signs on this map. And there's a bunch of reasons why I think it makes sense. Only 1 road sign. The rest are all on the building itself. And you know, we need to seek these by variance from the town. We're in 2 zoning districts at least. The one is is a residential. That's just a parking area. No signs are getting added to it, but it's all part of the same property. We have a very unique property here. The shape of the lot, obviously, it's on a corner on 2 major roads. By right, they're only allowed 2 signs, and they have to be under 100 square feet. We're seeking to add 6. The total square footage is going to be 212 square feet. So I think we satisfy going through what we're going to need to show for a variance, which is a tough standard. I appreciate the shape of the lot. I'm not seeking anything about the dirt or any of those things. We're just going to focus on the shape of the lot. Unusual shape. It's on a corner on 2 major roads. A little enforcement of your zoning bylaw is going to result in substantial hardship, financial or otherwise. Limiting the signage directly limits how the property can be seen to the public, how it's advertised. It's going to limit the exposure that people in the town can see, people driving by can see, and it helps people. These aren't directional signs, because directional signs are different, but to me, some of these signs are in the nature of directional to show you you've reached the water park, you've reached the arcade, you've reached the Compass Rose Ballroom. If we didn't have them, you couldn't have those. This is a year-round facility with, again, 270-plus rooms, year-round dining options, year-round conference facilities, and the water park. So I think that's a literal enforcement. Only having 2 signs is going to cause substantial hardship because it's going to limit the advertising, not only for my client, but to, again, to people of the general public who want to access this facility and use all the options that the resort has. I think that relief can be granted without substantial detriment or without substantially derogating the intent and purposes of the town zoning ordinance, which is the third factor in a variance. The relief is really limited. 6 signs, increasing the signage from 100 square feet to 212 square feet. I think if you went back and looked at the other property, the Cape Codder, I don't have pictures, but I know there were multiple signs on the Cape Codder talking about the different restaurants and the different facilities that were there. I think considering where we fall, and I know part of this is residential, but if you look around here, you don't see a lot of residential, and none of the residential parts or anything facing the residential is going to have a sign. Again, the 2 that we're adding on related to the water park and to the arcade actually face towards the police station. So I think that's my kind of presentation in brief. Given the unique nature of the location, the size, it's 270,000 square feet, this facility. It's on 12.5 acres of land. I think granting a variance into these circumstances really fits within the intent and purpose of this board have the ability to give a variance. It's something unique. It's a confrontation in the zoning bylaw that says otherwise you only get 2 signs and they can't be more than 100 square feet. I don't think that's a one size doesn't fit all when you're looking at this facility and you look around. So that's my kind of presentation on it. I'm happy to answer any questions, maybe fill in some gaps, but I think it's fairly straightforward. I hope.
Go ahead.
When I read this the first time, well, up until now, I thought you were adding, or going to be a total of 6 freestanding signs, but you're only adding 1 freestanding sign. Right.
There's one already on the property,
Yep.
and we're going to add 1 more freestanding
is
sign
F or
on
something.
Bursa's Way, which is the only other access into the resort. You can either access it, again, you can't take a left-hand turn on 132. Legally you can't do it, and at your own risk are you going to cross 3 lanes of traffic to take a left-hand turn into the resort. So that's one. The only other access point, again, is off of Bursa's Way. So there's going to be a sign on Bursa's Way, which is the one that's going to indicate it's fins up, which is the 20,000 square foot plus.
Yeah, just
indoor
going by
water park.
memory, I can picture at least 3 signs that have been there, if they're not still there, 3 or 4 signs on the building, so.
There was definitely the main entrance. There was definitely I can't remember the name of the restaurant.
Earth and
They
Kettle.
had 2 Crew maybe was one of the names.
Earth and Kettle was
kinda-
there, the spa was there.
Yeah.
Just come up to the microphone, introduce
Oh, yeah.
yourself.
So this is Ryan Connors from,
Every sign that we are proposing is a replacement of a sign that was there, except including the freestanding sign. The last freestanding sign was just taken down right before we converted, and it was blank at the time, but it had been, by prior ownership, there was something on it. I'm just not sure what.
Yeah, that's a relief to me, because I was picturing this Las Vegas strip of signs.
no, that's not at all how my client, it's a wonderful facility. They spent a substantial amount of money really re-envisioning the entire space. So if you haven't been, I encourage you to go.
I actually went on Google Maps and measured the frontage and then divided that by 5 rather than 6. And it was, I forget, 75 or 80 feet. So, yeah, I'm relieved.
Yeah, no, my client really isn't seeking anything that's really outside, and it's consistent with how they redeveloped this property, really to make it a resort and attractive. And again, I think they would probably tell you the summertime they're happy to have everybody in the summer, but really they really want to expand the winter and the off-season use of the facility to attract people to it.
I'd just say kudos for keeping those palm trees alive over the winter, though.
They told
How
me
you
what
did it.
temperature they can live to.
North of 5 degrees. It has to be down to
Wow.
5 degrees.
So,
So thank you for the question.
And just a question, so the calculation of the signs, it looks like most of these are sort of like they're not a framed sign, these are mounted, reliefed signs. So was the calculation done on a square of the sign, or was that?
It
how was
actually
that
is,
calculated?
it's actually shown on it, on
Oh, right,
on the
okay.
exhibits. No, because it was a point raised by the town when we went through the building
Oh, I
department.
see. My
And
apologies. Yeah, thank
no,
you.
that's quite all right. They asked us to recalculate the signage to show it kind of blocked. So what you see is actually how the sign totally fits in.
And if you were to, for the amount that were mounted versus directional, if you take out the directional signs, which I know you really can't, but how far are you over?
I don't know because this is a point. So the directional means you can do something that says this way or that way, which not what I'm. So to me they're kind of directional, but they're not really directional. The town views them as it would be the two that can't be seen from the road, which is the Fins Up Water Park and also
arcade.
the arcade, which are both facing the police station.
Okay, so these are just indicators of the business,
They're
but
showing you that this is where you should be. You're at
de
the right
facto
spot.
direction. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Are these lighted signs?
Yes, right. They're all.
Only the land shark sign is illuminated, and that's the only one that we're adding that's illuminated. The two existing signs that are already there that are approved, those are illuminated. So 3 signs in total out of the 9 would be,
But the new road signs that have lights on it.
no, that'll have spotlights from the.
Right, not-
from
not-
landscaping lights. but
right,
no,
that, okay.
But it's not illuminated.
24061 speaks to prohibited signs and with the lighting. If they're flashing, movement, things like that. Have you considered 24061?
We don't have any flashing or,
No flashing?
right. No.
Okay, moving signs? Like things
No,
from-
not like gas station lights, that kind of stuff. No, not that kind of stuff. These are all permanent light, and they just are, again, they may be illuminated from it or illuminated down onto it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Anyone else have questions?
Yeah, I have one more question. So none of the signs, well, they're not illuminated, but nothing illuminated would be on the Settlers Lane side. Is that correct?
There is no sign on there is no sign on Settlers Lane.
Great.
That's just a parking lot, but because of the whole project, we kind of
Okay.
treated it that way.
Okay, thank you.
There's no sign facing Settlers Lane, that parcel, it's all Bursa's Way.
Okay.
I mean, it's a variant. I have a really hard time, Sorry, Alex, you set us up for this, but it's a variance request. I mean, again, this is like another thing that, it really should go to town council to be zoned appropriately. Like the SCROD was created for things like this, where you have multiple businesses operating in a mall. I mean, the SCROD allows these things. But, if someone wants to make a stab at it, we still have to open public comment and stuff, but I just don't know how we get through variance. There's lots of very large lots around it. There's lots of lots that are being bisected by 2 zoning districts. I mean, it has the uniqueness of this little piece of residential, sort of, but it's also a separate lot, and they're not asking for a sign on the residential piece. So I guess I just have a little bit of a hard time how we get to variance findings that this lot is substantially unique. It does have different road flow on it, but all the lots around it have different road flows and turns and things.
Can I ask a question? It's probably not, but is each business within that business owned by the main entity, or are any of the businesses within that businesses privately owned?
It's one business.
It's one business. Okay.
The resort operates all of the properties in
Yeah,
there.
arcade is the only one that is leased out to Ryan's Family Amusement. Everything else is owned and operated by the property ownership.
Okay. The only reason I was asking is, so when we do something like a plaza, we have multiple businesses and it has a sign out front that indicates each business, and that obviously doesn't, it falls in something, I guess, different. These are not separately owned.
But on that point, we
I
would
think
still
you're
run
arguing it
into
the
a
other way then it's a resort, period.
We'd run into it. The problem we'd have.
That was my
we'd have a
question
square
originally,
footage
I know,
issue.
yes.
We'd have a square footage issue, though, on the total signage, because you're capped on your square footage, even under that scenario. We could have multiple signs, but we'd run into smaller signage overall. We'd have to hit that cap. So that's the variance where we want to go to 212 feet. I would just say, looking at the uniqueness and the shape, it's the size of the lot, the corner of the lot, it's on major roads, and it just is, I don't think you're gonna find another parcel that's gonna fit this within these zoning districts. I mean, we're not the Cape Cod Mall, so we don't fall into that area. We fall into just a kind of bizarre, old-school business districts. So we're kind of different that way. But you look around us, and it's clearly, everything is commercial on any of the roads that we're abutting. And again, the residential side has no signage, anything facing any of the residences. So I do think we fit, and again, I'm not a variance proponent when I was on this board, but I do think we hit those little touchstones that are needed. And that will be my pitch again. It's the shape of the lot. It's very unique. Again, I think 2 and 3 of the variance requirements, literal enforcement, I think there's an undue hardship there. Relief is not going to substantially derogate, especially if you think about the prior owner had multiple signs there. And so I think we hit, again, the only one which I can see you having a problem, which was always which to me is always the trickier one, is fitting in that first factor, but I'm not seeking something about the groundwater. I'm not seeking about anything about the elevation. I think it's just the uniqueness and the shape of this lot.
Anyone have any other thoughts? We can open public comment. I mean, I just go down to so were the signs that were there before permitted, or they were not permitted?
They were not.
They
Well,
were
I
not.
haven't looked to see if they were permitted or not, but
Okay.
they may have been pre-existing non-conforming.
That was my question.
You know,
When we talked with the town, Robin, we had said we were just replacing existing, and she had said unfortunately they didn't permit them. Even the signage that they were allotted to have the 100 square feet, they didn't permit those either. So we went through the permitting process, and that's when this all came out.
So if you did not have the signs D and E, where would you be? If you had the front-facing signs,
well, we'd still be over the number of signage.
because of
signs,
square footage, or
Because
just?
just the number. We only allowed 2.
Oh, you're only allowed 2, of course, sure.
And so,
May I just add, sign C is actually basically the one that's gonna be on the side closer to Bears Way, it's a sign that says the Compass Road Ballroom in the St. Somewhere Bar with a right arrow, so that actually is pretty much a directional sign, but it's larger than.
So the ones that we have denied in the most recent past have been same business, same sign, same name. The only ones that I can think that we, and it's been a question of directional.
Again, this is like a great thing that town council could make
I
as a
agree.
special permit provision
I
when
agree.
there's multiple businesses operating on a lot. There should be different sign provisions. I just don't know that the variance is the right avenue for us to do that. But, I mean, you keep going, there's other lots, I mean, they're not quite as big, but as you go down Purses Way and 132, there's multiple buildings that are touching. You've got the Holiday Inn that's on both sides. I'm sure they would love to have more signs. They're facing 2 roads, and, they only can have one. They chose to face 132. They chose not to face Purses Way. You keep going down the Olive Garden, same thing. They've chosen to put their sign facing the front. There's basically no sign on the back. They have a directional sign only. So, again, I'm just one board member, but that's my sort of, again, I've been pushing a lot of things that I think town council needs to review some of these and find a better path than variances. Variances aren't supposed to be granted as often as we seem to be put in front of us. But we should open for public comment. We can deliberate unless anyone has questions.
It's open for public comment.
All right, let's open for public comment. I don't think we received anything. We didn't receive anything. Is anyone here to speak to this? No? Seeing none? I can make a motion to close public comment.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So that brings it back to the board to deliberate or ask questions, or if someone wants to make findings. I mean, it's just, the variances are really hard to make on these, you know. There's nothing, I don't see anything like substantially unique about this lot that doesn't apply in this zoning district, but, you know, I think that's why, like, the mall and the Cape Town Plaza, why that overlay was created by council because they are, you know, big things with lots going on. But
What was, well, I'm trying to think back when we actually did the mall. There was an addition of signs at that time. It was because they were splitting up the space.
they were adding more signs.
They were adding more signs,
There are more uses and more signs.
more uses and more signs. How did that?
And then Cape Town Plaza, there was issues with the sign size, but we denied that,
Well,
front and back.
but there was one that was larger because it couldn't be seen from the street.
Sleep number, yeah.
Or the tile store, I think it was.
One sleep number wanted, there was a limit of size of sign they could have. And because they wanted a big sign in the front, they want a big sign on the back facing the other side too, but.
This is more related to like more like the mall. It's a single entity.
But they're allowed to have multiple because it's in that overlay.
Oh, right, right.
Like, this should be treated like a shopping center or multi-tenant place. So you can have a sign for each business that's operating there, you know. But, I don't know.
Anybody else want to speak to that?
Larry, thoughts?
It's been operating there for a long time with at least 4 signs on there that I can remember.
But that doesn't give us, your microphone's off. I mean, that doesn't give us, you know,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, if they had been permitted signs, they would be grandfathered in. Maybe they were before the zoning was enacted and they'd be fine, they'd be all set. But
They don't have any record of permitting? I mean, how old was that? Well, I guess some of those signs must
I
have.
don't know when that was built. Was it built in the 70s?
Yeah, at least. I mean, they kept adding to it over time in different structures. I mean, I think one of the things we differentiate here is that we do have, again, 9 different types of venues in this space. It's not one hotel. It's not one. It's a resort in the sense that there's a water park, which is 20,000 square feet. There's a separate conference facility. There's a separate, you know, there's 2 dining venue. There's 3 different dining venues. We're only seeking a sign for one. And that's 20, you know, and that has seating for 200. So in that sense, I mean, I do think it really is unique. It's not just a Holiday Inn. It's just not a Holiday Inn with a bar in it. It's 9 different things. It's 270,000 square feet. I think it's probably one of the biggest single-use structures in the town. You know, the mall being there, but it's a different animal, the mall. The Cape Town Plaza is a different animal, it's a space. You know, I looked at some of the sizes on those, and we're right there, total size-wise. And again, it's one owner, one tenant, effectively. Just different uses, so. It's a different animal, it's a different, and I do think, I mean, if you're struggling with just getting over the first variance requirement, I do think the lot is very unique. I do think the way it fits in, I think the road's going against it. I don't think you're going to find another structure in the town that fits these qualifications. Even the mall and the other ones are just lanes in front and lanes in back, and then a corner road.
So does someone want to make some findings, or?
Well, I have another question. So regarding the pre-existing non-conforming, they often are not permanent, but because changed ownership and basically it's an abandoned use at this point, those other signs, correct? That's how I would see it. Otherwise, I would see it as a pre-existing non-conforming use, those signs that are attached to the building.
I think that'd be great, but I still think to help us get to the variance, I think it goes to some of the other variance findings, the substantial detriment, the nullification of the zoning bylaw because it was already done that way. But I think for the purposes of today, I think we need you to, we need a variance to get these signs in. And I think the way we have to do the variance is to demonstrate we satisfy all three factors, which, again, I think we do.
Someone want to make findings? Just looking at.
Mr. Chair, do you want to close the public hearing?
Yeah, I mean, if we're done, if everyone's really,
Are we done deliberating?
that's what I'm asking.
I don't think we're done deliberating. Nobody's going to make.
Okay.
I mean,
We're not done deliberating. No, I mean, I think we would have to really lean on the shape of this lot. I mean, size isn't really a.
well, it is certainly, I mean, it's outlined here. That's not a square. It's not a triangle. I do agree with the applicant that you would be hard pressed to find a triangle, square, parallelogram all combined in one. I mean, it's certainly,
Extremely like nestled in a corner. That's all.
now these are two, what you have outlined here, is that two lots, basically?
There's one, the zero is very difficult to see, Zero Settlers Lane, but it's basically right here.
Oh, okay, I see it at the back.
Just this parking area.
Which just makes it more regular if we're going to go there.
And just, to go, just not to, you have to look, when you look at the requirements, it's also, it's soil conditions, I'm not trying to do that one. Topography, not trying to do topography of such land and structures, affecting such land and structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located. So it's particular to this one. The shape is particular. It's not the standard shape in the zoning district that you're on two major roads. And, with this kind of shape and this kind of size. And so I do think we fit within that one.
So the shape is odd, but the whether it's banked by two roads, many of the properties here along this route are banked by two roads. So the question is the shape of this lot the detriment, or does it just happen to have an odd shape and it's on two roads?
I mean, like the lot next to it, the police station lot, is also sort of weirdly shaped, also bisected by two zoning districts. The state land on the other side of Finney's Lane is the same thing. I think it's still in the same zoning district, or maybe that jumps into the RF. I don't know. Maybe that might be in a different zoning district. But what is that? Is that the Hobby Lobby is also a weird shaped lot that also is bisecting two zoning districts, the same two zoning districts.
But now, when you're in the Hobby Lobby, you're in that whole mall over there, and if you want to look at the signage on that, in that mall, and compare it to the signage here.
I'm just looking at the parcels based on where the parcel lines are drawn, because that's cut up into multiple, that plaza is.
Right.
It's a 12 acre, it's like the same size acreage.
It's the same, I think.
Frontage.
I think the square footage may be even smaller, and look at the signage that they have.
So we're really concentrating on one, correct?
On the what?
Provision number one is
Yeah,
what
I
we're
mean, I
really
think that's
hanging
the
here.
issue. I mean, that's always the issue with the variance. How is it substantially unique that there's something really unique about it that's not affecting everyone else? I mean,
Well, I think I always struggle with the literal enforcement, substantial financial hardship or otherwise. That's the trickier one. I think we do show that one here. So I think the shape is, to me, again, I don't focus so much on the shape. I think the shape is there. But you guys all know which side I'm pulling for.
go ahead, Larry.
On Exhibit 4, it talks about indirect lighting by others. You know what that design is?
Which Exhibit 4, this is a
Exhibit 4 is
sign.
Yep, which is the Margaritaville sign. Margaritaville and Spar, it looks like. And it says, indirect lighting by others.
I think that just,
Yeah, that's just the, like, facade of the building is illuminated.
Not up lights from the ground.
Correct.
The whole building's uplit from the ground, but the sign's not specifically lit?
No, like the facade, there's a illumination on the actual, like, facade that, like, almost like a spotlight.
Okay, so not up light from the ground.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, where are we at, everyone? No one wants to make a stab?
I'm kind of having a problem with number 3 also. Because it's the purpose of the zoning bylaw to limit signage.
When, again, like, I don't disagree that the property lends itself to have multiple signs. It is a lot going on there. It's just, our zoning doesn't speak to it for this parcel like it could or should, where there's multiple things operating on one parcel, as it does with our shopping centers. But if someone wants to make a stab at it.
You still have public comment?
We closed public
We did
comment.
close. Are we allowed to reopen?
We can. Did you?
Or
Wait.
can I make a suggestion? I know this isn't really where you want to go with this, but I'm thinking, as the chairman points out, this is a good opportunity for us to bring something forward to town council. You're obviously operating with a current sign, and as much as we'd want to do it this way, it might just be the opportunity to try to get something moving quickly in order to make this, not a decision that a decision that we can look at this and just say, yes, we understand there's multiple businesses operating under one umbrella, and that it becomes much easier rather than trying to skirt what is a difficult number one, I think, even if we continue to the point where we could just have a conversation. I don't know. Any thoughts there?
Sign code townwide, I think, is an issue. I mean, we've seen it in multiple zoning districts with people coming forward,
and that's my concern, is that we'll fall into that kind of hole. And you got an operating business here that's kind of proceeding in good faith, has done what it needs to do. You have the ability to grant a variance. It's an exceptional relief, but then the converse is, if you never give a variance, then why do you have the right to give a variance? And someone has to fit and satisfy these requirements. There has to be a case that satisfies it, and I think this one does. Again, the desirable relief without substantial detriment to the public good, again, this is a very unique property, size-wise, in terms of the 12 and a half acres. It's very unique in the total structure, the 274,000 square feet. Got multiple businesses, multiple different venues operating there. They're somewhat independent of each other, but they're all under one roof, literally, and they're all under one ownership. So it does fit. It's a very unique proposition that way. Getting multiple licenses from the town, which would be the next step to have different businesses in there, has its own practical difficulties because it's a resort. You run into liquor license issues, which is one of the reasons why we're doing it. Why we're here for this, because to have multiple businesses in there that operate, we would have to get multiple liquor licenses from the town and the state. So it's very unique that way. So that's a detriment that would be expressed to my client. So I can understand the struggle about the variance, but I think you have to, taking a step back, looking at just this property, it's very unique. It falls within that variance. And the idea is, well, the sign code in the town needs to change, maybe, but you have a right to give a variance. And, you know, and I think this satisfies that right.
So, question, does this lot represent a significantly larger lot than any other business within a relative distance to the subject parcel?
Well, I don't know, the mall, you can't.
I'm not
Yeah.
the mall, I'm talking individual
I don't know how big
businesses.
how big the Holiday Inn structure is, how many units that is. You know, I guess we could look at that, but again, but I don't know what relief, I don't know what they have in there. Do they have a restaurant in that Holiday Inn? I don't know.
Meaning the parcel is so large that to have just two signs and the multiple amounts of business, or just the sheer size of the lot and the structures on which occupy that lot.
And there's only two egresses, ins and outs on this property. One on Bursa's Way and one on 132.
I mean, I wouldn't hit that too hard because then that just speaks to you only need two signs.
Well, but
I
we
understand
can't-
what you're saying, though,
Then
but
we
for
could only have two road signs, and then we
Right.
couldn't have you know, that's what we have. You know, we're in that predicament now.
But as a part of the land, such land or structures, I mean, this is a massive connected structure. That in and of itself is, I would be willing to bet that the square footage of this structure and the land upon which it sits is significantly larger than anything else outside of the mall in this area. Now, I can't speak to that because I'm looking at a topographical map, but is it an avenue potentially? Yes, I think so. Any thoughts? Herb?
Well, while you might be concerned that if we give you the variance, then everybody else is going to want one, but you have a special case. I don't think I would see people coming out like the Holiday Inn, oh, why, I want 10 signs too, or 9. So I kind of am okay with it because that was a concern that you're setting a precedent and then you're going to open up the floodgates for, 2 of these every month. So I don't see that as a problem because you're making a very unique case that I don't think a car dealership or a hotel, no matter how large it is really, but it would only have one restaurant, not 6 of them or whatever it is. And the issue about the liquor licenses is also pretty compelling. So I think I'm leaning towards, there's also the pre-existing part, but we really can't consider that.
But the pre-existing, which I appreciate your comments very much, because I do think there is an element on the pre-existing which would be, you're always concerned that, well, you gave a variance to this guy, so I should get one. But again, the difference on some of them is that they've already been operating in the way they've been operating. And my client is new to this space. The prior space had multiple signs. It's new. So it isn't been operating here for 2 years and now saying, oh, you know what, we want to add another sign now, and we don't want to go other than going through the expedited variance process. That's not what we're doing here. They're a new operator. They've done a substantial investment in this project to make it the resort that it is. And again, it's offering multiple different venues, and all they're trying to do is add signs on the building. And if you look at the size of these, they're not giant signs by any means. And we're going from 100 square footage to 212. And 2 of the signs aren't even visible from a road, practically speaking. They face the police station. I hear you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I've spoken my piece probably more than enough.
So obviously, we know there's an issue. We need to approach the town with this. Certainly, if I were to, just from a layman's standpoint, look at some of these, some are obviously very necessary, some questionable. Arcade, I don't really need to know that from the street. I'm not saying it's not a sign that could be put on in the future based on a change in, and I know this how it was petitioned, but, would the board feel
It's still a variance.
it's still very, I know, I
I
understand.
mean, you still have to make variance findings here to get it done, whether it's,
Just add a lot of the signage, because the structure is so large, the signage is more so for the guests that are at the hotel. Like, yes, obviously, the front sign that says Land Shark for the restaurant, that's more of a, hey, an advertisement, we're here. But when we go to the two signs on the back for the arcade, it's because we have our guests, we're actually shuttling them around, and we've just invested in a bunch of different golf carts, so because that's how large, the property is. So it's more so for the guests that are staying at the hotel to be able to identify, because I can tell you, the first time I walked through this property two and a half years ago, my head was spinning when I got back to the lobby, and I didn't know how I got back there. So, and a lot of it in the summer, they do use the outside to get to the structures. So that's like the reasoning for the Fin City Arcade sign and the water park sign in that back right corner, as well as the sign C, which is just telling you this is where the conference center and the spa is.
Could there be a question about, because the front-facing nature of each individual business faces, it's not just street-facing. We have several businesses that are accessed from alternate sides of a very large structure. So owing to circumstances related to the structures and how they sit upon the land
yeah, okay.
may make this unique in that most of the businesses that we, if we want to take the mall, where the Whole Foods is, for instance, those are all front-facing businesses. I would agree that when you drive by, they require fewer signs. This is a structure that can be accessed by about 200 degrees. So you can come around the entire, actually, can you get around the entire building? So this is a structure that's accessed from all four sides, meaning that front-facing signs have no relevance to the location of businesses inside. It is unique in that sense. I can't think of another structure outside of the mall that has that kind of access. It is unique in that sense. The shape of the lot, yes, but it isn't really the detriment to how it is. It's the fact that you've got these multiple businesses accessed from multiple sides of the building. Any thoughts?
I have one too. It looks like the majority of these signs are on the buildings, but then you look at Fins Up and it has a freestanding sign and a building sign? Is that the way, am I reading that correctly?
Yes, so we were seeking to add one road sign, which is the Fins Up, and then Fins Up has a separate one on the building, again, but that's not, it's on the building by where the Fins Up entrance is, which is on the side facing the police station.
I'm just trying to rationalize two signs, that's all.
Because the two freestanding signs, actually by the town of Barnstable, we are okay to have two because it's on two separate
roads.
But we already max out on the square footage on the two signs that are already permitted. So we could technically take one of those down and put up a freestanding sign there. We are allowed to have those, but we're just maxing out on our square footage.
Again, I just hate, town council made this sign code for, they allowed, they recognize that there are parcels that are on two roads. They recognize, it's we're trying to retool the whole thing here. And they should be retooling it as our town fathers, whatever. But do you want to make a stab at it? No one? Mark? Herb? Seemed like you got it.
I mean, of the members up here, does anybody have a feeling about anything that's been presented more than anything else? Do you like one avenue more than the other?
I'm even thinking this, at this point during the discussion, that could some of the signs be taken out of consideration as a means of,
Well, they either need to go do it by right or they need a variance at this point in the current zoning ordinance.
well, to get it by right is almost like not even worth pursuing
They have two
because,
signs, that's it.
Again, we met with the building department, we met with the sign, we went over the signs, and they gave us the option of adding another road sign because we're on two roads, but that would require other changes, and so we proceeded this way. Wouldn't get us to the same signage issue. We'd still be here with a sign problem.
Yeah.
And so, we did meet, we ran all our drafts and the signs by them, got their constructive comments to get to where we are today, to try to get this. And I think it's a unique, I hear you, but there's a reason the variance is the pressure outlet when something just doesn't fit right. And I think we're at that pressure point on this property. I don't think it opens a floodgate. I think if you said this was the case we gave a variance to, can you satisfy that? I think they'd be hard pressed to find another property in town that could come forward and say, yeah, oh, we hit all those problems.
I mean, it is taken on a case-by-case basis, but.
Yeah.
So I
I mean,
don't
the only
think
thing, like, if someone feels that less signs is less, if some of these signs are not substantially hardship situation, we could ask that some of them not be there. Like if, I mean, you guys were sort of going into signs for different places you maybe thought weren't necessary, but that's the only, would be only reason to say, okay, we want less signs.
Well, that approving a variance on that is more like a stopgap. It doesn't mean that they can't get additional signs. It is a unique property. Nobody's disputing that. It's just a question of how that fits into, I think, I really only have a problem with number one. I feel like actually 2 and 3 are easier. Literal enforcement, obviously there are multiple businesses within there. There'd be, financial hardship there potentially. And, with their inability to be, those businesses to be seen, and desirable relief without substantial detriment to the public good. I mean, this is a commercial corridor. It's accepted as that. I don't think anybody is going to be upset. If they were, we'd already have heard about it. So,
But what was the intent of the zoning ordinance?
I think the intent was to not have a single smaller business have 15 signs. I don't think they were accounting for something that's over 150,000 square feet. I mean, I just don't think
Which
that.
again, they could have given metrics based on square footage or size of the structure to how much signs they could have, like they have in
They
other
could.
districts.
Yeah, they can.
But, so, who's going for it?
Well, you said metrics. I mean, I think they should have metrics on the LEDs. I mean, the regulation mentions them. It actually is in the prohibited section. LED signs can be pretty bright.
Yeah, we went through roof lighting and roof ridges, whatever that was, 2 years ago with the Jeep dealership. So it's, all those things need to be addressed at some point. All right, we have this in front of us today. Does someone want to make a stab at making a positive findings on this? Or do I need to poll everyone because I don't want to, set the applicant back for 2 years here?
I mean, I know we can't open up public comment, but I would really like to. What I don't want to happen is if this is denied for any reason, that we sit, the town is sitting on this where somebody can't make a progressive move forward. It can't be a 2-year thing. I mean, I'm assuming there's no ability to, and the applicant has, I know this is the easiest route, but I mean, is there an ability for the town to spot zone to allow for, multiple signs, much like the mall?
That's what this crowd was, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, we do it
It's
for
always a
the,
possibility, yes, they could, but will they and when will they? I get that the applicant's trying to get this moving forward.
there's no question it's a hardship. I mean,
Yeah, they have a lot going on there and they need to create signage to share what's going on there. But Does no one want to make findings? No one wants to take a stab at this?
I think, I'm going to make a stab at it, and then you,
We can all participate.
decide and
So
participate
should we
and-
close the public hearing? Yes? Are we ready to
is
close?
everybody comfortable with that?
All right,
I
so I'll
am.
make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So the public hearing's closed. Okay. Mark, go ahead. We can chime in and try to
Okay.
help articulate.
Good. With regard to variance number 2025-002, Hyannis LSOF Investment LLC, Section 240-63, Signs in Residential Districts, Section 24-65, Signs in Business, Highway Business Districts. Hyannis LSOF Investment LLC have petitioned for a variance pursuant to Section 240-63A, E, and H. Signs in the residential districts and Section 240-65A, C, D, F, and G. Signs in the B, HB districts. The petitioner seeks a variance for additional signage related to hotel and resort in order to add 6 additional signs, specifically at Landshark Bar and Grill, proposed signage 31.5 square feet, Margaritaville Spa, proposed signage 11.1 square feet, Compass Rose Ballroom and Spa, proposed 14.3 square feet, at Finn City Arcade, proposed 22.2 square feet, at Fins Up Water Park, proposed 27.8 square feet, and at Fins Up Water Park, freestanding sign, 25.5 square feet. Subject property is located at 1225 Iona Road, Route 132, Hyannis, Mass. Statutory requirement of MGL Chapter 40A, Section 10 for granting a variance is a 3-pronged test. Board is required to find that each of the following 3 requirements has been met in order to consider granting the variance. Number 1, owing to circumstances related to soil conditions, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located. I find that the perimeter shape of this parcels to be substantially different than its relatively surrounded parcels, and that it is on 2 different front-facing roads, and that the structures upon this parcel being of a much larger size than surrounding relatively located businesses can be accessed by all 4 sides of the property, being different than anything else within a relative distance to the subject property, and that the requirement for signs for that purpose for the front-facing facades is necessary. 2, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the zoning ordinance would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner. I find that the not having these signs would provide both a financial hardship and potentially a safety concern for movement around the lot. Number 3, desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying and substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance. I find that this businesses would not be substantially detrimental to the public good and are like type businesses along a commercial corridor where signage and or lighting from the signage is not directed in any way, shape, or form towards residential areas or abutting properties. Those are my findings.
I'll second those findings.
All right. All those in favor of approving them based on the findings? Aye.
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 All right, and conditions? There's,
Based on staff report dated February 20th, 2025, I have suggested variance conditions 1, 2, and 3. Does anybody have any
I mean,
issue?
I think we should add a fourth one that none of the, because a variance is going to run with land, that none of the rear-facing signs can be internally illuminated.
I was going to talk about illumination and/or, are any of the signs neon?
Yeah.
Up and bagged, and the sign, the building commission was okay with that. None of those are illuminated.
Okay, yeah, I mean, this is just in forever that, you know, it could be a form, or it could be in 50 years, someone decides to put a, whatever, a
Yeah.
neon or whatever we're using at that point in time.
Becomes Herbville.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you.
And are any of the signs neon? There's nothing, okay. That in itself, I think, kind of goes against, that the style of lighting should be more in line with what is considered more common signs along that corridor. I don't know,
does
we've
that
turned down tube lighting, frame lighting. It's usually the,
So you would want, what do you want to reference?
only backlit,
Other sign, so only backlit
Or-
signs?
or
internally lit signs?
internally lit signs. Is that going to be a problem with anything that's going up currently?
No, they're all internal. The signs that are already there in place that are permitted, those are illuminated, but they're not neon or anything, they're back.
So maybe we could limit it to internally.
I was only worried about
Or-
the ones on the rear lots that are abutting.
Yeah, those
I
do
mean,
not have any.
the fronts, I mean.
Okay, I
it's
mean, if there's nothing there,
132, I
then,
mean,
yeah,
what
that's fine.
it's, you know.
Okay.
And we
So-
also, we have a controllable system that we can, if you guys want, if there was a time window that you wanted the signs not illuminated, we have controls that we can do that.
I mean, I
I
think
mean,
people
more
are
of the
coming
always
and
issue
going.
is just long term, you know, what's
Right.
the next owner, or the owner after that, or the owner after that? Or
Well,
the-
that's why I'm saying maybe that, we stay with just either internally or backlit
Yeah.
lighting. Well, I mean, would that be an issue?
No, shouldn't, as long as the technology doesn't make something
Yeah.
better.
Does that make
But
sense?
then, yeah, then someone comes back to the board if the technology
Fine.
evolves or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that technically 5?
So 4 would be none of the rear-facing signs
Signs
can
are
be internally
illuminated.
illuminated.
Yep.
And then what was 6?
And
Sorry, 4, that would be
4.
4, and then what would 5 be?
Number 5, would that all signage, if illuminated, should be internal or backlit only? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay if it's the ground sign could be, I think what
Or
they have now
landscape
is
lighting.
internally lit, but it also could be ground lit.
Yeah, we just don't want somebody throwing up tube, something that just doesn't look like anything else that you would find. There are no other lights like that along 132, so that I can think of.
Well, there are there's sign standards, right? That are,
And it does
Yeah, there are,
specify
okay.
that it's according to the
Okay, so
plans
maybe it
dated such and such.
Okay.
So then maybe just on those two, you just qualify without further relief from this board.
Yeah,
Then we have the ability to come back and say.
Yeah.
this
That's
is what
fine.
we need.
Does that make sense?
yeah.
So we're not adding, we're just,
I mean, we could also say that this is the only signs, or the signs on the plan are the only signs allowed without further relief of the board. So then if business does change again, they have to come back.
I think that's better.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that agreeable? Yeah. Okay.
Those are my conditions.
All right. A roll call, or sorry, vote on those conditions. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. We made it through. Another variance.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, folks. Have a good night. All right. So appeal number 2025-004, Greg and Caroline Rice have applied for a special permit in accordance with section 240-472C for accessory dwelling units, ADUs. The applicant proposes to construct a accessory dwelling unit of 904 square feet adjacent to the existing single-family dwelling of 1,806 square feet. The one-bedroom accessory dwelling unit exceeds the 900 square foot as of right limit. The subject property is located at 63 Wren Lane, Marston's Mills, Massachusetts, as shown on Assessor's Map 029 as parcel 023. It's located in the Residence FRF zoning district. We did receive a letter March 3rd, 2025, requesting to withdraw this. I will make a motion to accept the withdrawal. In a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So that is withdrawn. Wait, there was one more. Did I miss the other one? I did. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. All right, sorry. An appeal number 2023-003, Gabrielle and Elizabeth Da Silva have petitioned for a variance pursuant to Section 240-11E bulk regulations in the RB, RD1, and RF2 residential districts. The petitioners seek a variance to the side yard setback to build an in-ground pool on the westerly side of their property. The petitioners request a variance to locate the proposed in-ground pool 6.6 feet from the property line, where 10 feet is required. The subject property is located at 139 Park Ave, Centerville, Mass., as shown on Assessor's Map 207 as parcel 026. It is, where'd it go? It is located in the Residence D1 and RD1 zoning district. Ms. Da Silva, whenever you're ready.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for hearing.
All right, hold on 1 second. I have to assign members.
Oh.
So this will be our regular members, myself, Herb, Mark, Larry, you didn't sit on the last one. And Natalie, you want to sit on this? 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sure.
Okay. Whenever you're ready. Sorry
Great,
about that.
thank you. Good evening. Thanks for hearing my petition. So as you just read, we are petitioning for a variance to the rear of our property. A setback should be 10 feet. We're asking for 6.6 feet. And I'm going to go through the points of the three-prong test that I believe we've met. So firstly, as to the condition, the shape and topography of the land and the way the structures sit on the particular parcel. It's a triangular shaped parcel where the house is situated. It's set back to the rear of the property, and then off to the side of the property there's a severe slope, and there's a very large and old maple tree on the property. So for those reasons, we're looking to locate the pool where we've indicated on the plot map. Now, the reason for the setback is that the structure of the house, if it were located 10 feet from the rear of the property line, it would be really almost up against the house and actually up against the deck. And there's a little tiny small deck, so you'd be kind of stepping off the deck basically into the pool. So it's a safety issue from that perspective. And the other major thing is that we really don't want to kill the maple tree. So moving it sort of over closer to that tree is not something that we would be interested in doing. So I can go through the other 2 points unless you have questions on that.
No, you can continue. You can finish.
Okay.
Save questions at the end. Thanks.
So the second point involving the hardship is similar to the first point. In order to relocate the pool, the only other place it really could go would be to the side. We'd have to destroy the tree and also build we didn't really entertain this option, but it would be a complete undertaking to build a retaining wall, level the land, and basically destroy the maple tree, which we really don't want to do. And then the third point is it would not be derogating, and it would not be to the detriment of the public good if we located the pool 6.6 feet from the rear rather than 10 feet. And I have a letter in support from a neighbor in support of what we're trying to do here.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do. So the pool goes directly behind the house, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
as opposed to on the side where it slopes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Is that the current location of the septic system, or is that a proposed area for
No,
that?
that's current.
And is the pool house existing, or is that part of the permit?
No, it's existing.
It's existing, it's
Yeah.
already there.
Yeah.
So was that a recent build?
There was a pre-existing one-car detached garage there that was actually on the property line. So when I talked to the town, they said it was dilapidated and falling apart. So we wanted to sort of fix the roof and fix it up, and really the only option was, because it was pre-existing non-conforming, it had been there for, I don't know, 50 years or longer. The town said you can remove it and put back the same size, but if you could move it, so it's not really, we had to move it closer to the house, 5 feet in from the rear, 5 feet in from the side. So we did what the town asked us to do. But same size as what was there before, it's just now it's new. It's a shed that just sort of got put back.
Okay.
But
So it's not
off of
actually
the-
a pool house currently?
No.
It's just a shed?
Yeah, it's just a shed. It's, you know, we sit in there, but it's a shed.
How deep is the pool proposed to be?
The pool is proposed to be 8 feet deep.
Okay. I mean, again, here we are with these pools
The
again.
pool, yeah, I know.
Asking for a variance. Is it a structure? Is it not a structure? You know, again, we don't have, we have no guidance on how to,
We've been in this position quite a few times in the last probably couple of months, and I
Yeah.
don't believe that we have approved one of those pools yet, correct?
no, I don't think we have. I mean,
It's been a bit of a sore spot in that there's no guidance from the town. It is something that we're looking at currently.
Yeah.
As much like what you heard is with the signage, it's one of
Right.
the things that we've done. We have not.
I mean,
Oh,
is there a reason the pool couldn't get slightly smaller and possibly move a little bit closer to the house to make the 10 feet? I mean, it's what, 3.4 feet that you need from the edge of the pool
Yeah.
itself, not even the deck.
Well, it really, that's the point, I guess. If it goes any closer, you'd be really stepping off the deck into the pool.
This is why we're seeing sometimes the plunge pools, because they kind of conform. They do fit within the lot. You can have them very close to the house.
But they're twice as expensive. I looked at that.
Yeah. they're expensive.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's the reality.
It's just the problem we have is that it becomes a question of hardship, and generally pools are not. But the hardship in placing it, yes, but in looking at a variance, it becomes, that one becomes difficult.
I mean, is a 10-foot pool too narrow? I don't really know pools, but
14-foot pool's pretty narrow.
I mean, yeah, the plunge pools are like, she said they are expensive, but they're, 14 by 9, 14 by 10.
I'll open public comment. We did receive one letter from the public. Hold on, I just pulled it up. It was from Peter and Meredith O'Toole at 159 Park Ave, and they were in support of it, or they had no concerns. Is anyone here to speak to this? Seeing none. We can close public comment. I'll make a motion to close public comment. Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So that closes public comment, brings back to the board to deliberate or make findings.
I still struggle with these. We have denied our share of these, and I just don't see how we get there without having to go back to all the other ones. It's always the same. It's only by a couple of feet usually, something along that line. It's not that there aren't alternatives. Cost can't be one of them with regard to the variance unless it was something you absolutely had to have. I hate to say it, but I'm probably not in favor of this.
I guess the only other comment I would make, there are other non-conforming pools in the neighborhood. I assume they've been there a long time. So it wouldn't, it wouldn't be seen by the frontage of the neighborhood. It wouldn't change the look of the neighborhood. And that's the whole point, really, is keeping that, the way the house looks. It's a 100-year-old little cape. It's actually the street I grew up on.
Yeah, I'm familiar with a couple of the other ones. Like there's a smaller pool on the one on the corner of Park and Bacon. And,
Yeah, exactly.
But those are inside the bounds. I don't think those, they're not affected by the side lots. We denied one in Osterville. We just denied another one that was on Route 28 that had a 20-foot setback, and they had plenty of room. It wasn't even a question of room, but it fell within the setback by a couple of feet, and that was denied. It was something that we unfortunately are trying to work with the town to get something where there's some guidance and making it less difficult, and we're hoping to do that soon because there are some people waiting for that to happen in order to go forward as of right, or at least making the petition much easier. So currently it's 11 feet from, and I see you have a deck there. It says exterior deck. Is that just a walkway or is that an actual deck?
No, it's a little deck. There's a sliding door there that you walk out onto the deck, and there's a few steps down.
Okay, so this is more like a 4-foot, not usable.
Yeah.
This is an exit deck.
Yeah. Well, it's, there's chairs there, but it's not a big deck.
And you looked into potentially building a retaining wall at the side of the house where you do have, so you could build it by right at the side of the house. It's just a question of looking into moving it around the septic system and having to have a.
We couldn't put it in the side unless we want to kill the maple tree, which we don't. It's like a 100-year-old
I see, okay.
massive tree.
Oh, the 35.
That
I see.
we don't.
Okay.
We're just not interested in doing that.
I understand.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, how high is the existing deck off the ground?
I believe it is 2 or 3 steps down. So
Okay.
If the pool wasn't as deep, would it not be a structure?
Anything over 3,500 gallons, I believe, is considered
Structure?
from a pool standpoint. I think over 3,500, I think is like not a spa. It's a pool, I believe. 2,500 gallons.
But our setback regulations are to structures. And because a pool was across a certain height, it falls in that structure like the walls. When we deal with these retaining walls, once they cross 6 feet, then they become.
That is a question
structures,
for
I
the
believe.
No.
town. I
Somehow
think.
that doesn't apply to retaining walls.
If it would be like a 3-foot pool. Or less. I can't imagine it's.
I mean, I don't see a way we can approve this. I don't personally see a way I can approve it as a variance. I'm just trying to figure out other solutions to get it to yes. But
Like if it's a landscape structure or something.
yeah, I mean, I wish I could remember. I've had conversations with planning and building commissioner about it, but
Is there no way that you can make up, it's 3.5 feet that you need, right?
yeah, it is. Yes.
And there's no way you can make that up in the back of the house?
I don't see how we could, given where the deck is.
they're 11.1 feet right now from the corner of the foundation. right next to the shower.
Is this a preform pool, or is it like a one piece that you're just putting in?
I believe so. I mean, they dig it out and then.
It's just a shell.
Stick
The
it
shell
in.
goes
Yeah,
in the ground.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, I mean, it's large. I mean, it is a full-size pool, but
Could they get an easement from the abutter? Not really. Not to build a structure.
is the abutter, is that a house or is it just land?
It's a house, but that's who the letter's from.
I can't see what's there. Would they be willing to sell you 3 feet?
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it's,
They'd have to land swap, and they'd have
Land
to go
swap,
back
yeah.
to us too.
well, they
They're
could
both
do it
probably
on, they could do it
undersized.
on the back end,
They're both probably undersized lots.
right?
But that's illegal, right? I mean,
Well, you can do land swaps sometimes, but
Yeah.
it sometimes depends
Yeah,
on the
we have
size.
property lines move. All people come and move their property lines to make things like this happen.
and that's back here in front of the zoning board, or?
They're planning
Usually,
board here. Depends. It just depends what the zoning district.
sometimes they'll just take
Lot
the
sizes,
equal amounts,
requirements are.
one off the front, one off the back.
Yeah.
If they're both, sometimes it's just a question of doing the legal work. If the back of their lot is wooded or something along that line, they don't particularly use it. If it's not landscaped to the edges, it can be an avenue. As of right now, we have turned down most of these pools currently, just trying to get some additional language from the town so that we can. It's not that we don't want to. There are plenty of people that want to do this, and we would love to be able to approve these. But our hands are tied with regard to kind of how the regulations read. And so we are trying to attempt to do this where we can bring forth the issue. It's only a couple of them. Pools, they're definitely one of them, especially with undersized lots, which a lot are,
Yeah.
or they're tight.
I mean, I do think the piece of property is unique. Where the structures sit on it also is. The drop off on the side, the large tree. That's the way I look at it. I thought we met the first prong test. Otherwise, I wouldn't have, taken up your time here tonight.
Based on the topography, you're saying, of the land.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty drastic drop off on the side.
But it's dropping off into the neighbor's lot too, correct?
Yes.
So unfortunately, it's not unique to your lot as the only one that in the district that has that. And then on number 2, pools are not substantial financial hardships, especially when you can make the pool smaller and still have a pool. I don't know. If someone wants to make a stab at it again, by all means. I'm probably in the negative here. Someone else is in the positive. We have a variance. We need 4, I think. Right, Anna? We need 4 affirmative votes. Yeah.
I'm not there.
So if we have 2, Herb, where are you?
I think the pool could be tweaked a little bit closer to the house and other things. And so I'd be against it.
Natalie?
Well, yeah, I'm just looking at the pool house or the shed that you mentioned. I mean, can the pool be shifted down to the left in that area as far as you can go? Does that?
We'd
is
still have
there
to come
more-
away
is
from
there
the lot.
room? Yeah. See, can you move it over here and then move it up? Is it the same distance? Okay. There isn't enough room. Okay.
Yeah,
No, well,
unfortunately.
based on what, you guys said that this is not what you like to see. So,
It's not that we don't like to see it, we just don't have a sort of an avenue. It's not really a variance condition. If we had a special permit provision that said that, pools, as long as they aren't whatever, water slides can be up to 5 feet from the lot line, then it would be fine. We look at it and say, yes, this one meets that
Okay.
sort of criteria that the council can give us.
Okay, so are
But-
we waiting for criteria? Is that,
Yes, ideally, we'd like to have that, or have us, yeah, have a, I think we need a pool provision.
do we have a letter out, Dear Town Council?
It's been discussed. I don't know if there's a formal letter.
Okay.
But anyways, that's for
I'll
another
have to go
discussion.
along with you, because you guys know what.
So, I mean, do you want us to vote on this, or would you prefer that we withdraw? It doesn't sound like you have the votes. You're more than welcome to call us to a vote. But if it doesn't pass, then you wouldn't be able to come back to the board for 2 years on it.
You're
And what's the alternative? Is,
You can withdraw the petition without prejudice, and if something changes, you are able to come back to us, especially if new language appears.
Okay.
You would be able to come back, and it'd be much more likely that that would be
Okay.
something that we could do for you.
that sounds like the right thing to
Okay.
do.
So I'll make a motion to accept the withdrawal of appeal number 2023-003. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So that is withdrawn. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry we
you.
couldn't get to yes. All right, I already did the last one. Correspondence. We had at least one matter of correspondence from Ms. Salas regarding the Wakeby Road solar situation out there. I think that was the only thing we received. We didn't get anything else. Anything not reasonably anticipated? Councilor Ledke, anything? Okay. We would love to see something happen with pools in the near future.
And signs.
Pools and signs are a reoccurring theme.
I'll volunteer to write a letter to the town council
Yeah.
asking,
Councilor Ledke's here.
we
right?
need, yes, I know,
Yeah.
so she'll know what it is when
Yeah.
she sees it. Dear town council members, we need clarification on what?
I mean,
On
how we
pool-
want, how the town would like to treat pools.
Pool
You know,
setbacks.
pool setbacks. If we,
Okay.
if the desire of the community is that we have pools up to 5 feet, 3 feet, 1 feet, 0 feet from the lot line, then create a special permit provision that says, you know, it could be that the lot has to be at least a third of an acre or something or whatever.
Okay.
But then they could be allowed as long as they're agreeable, and then the neighbors get notification, they come to us.
Okay.
You know, the same way the medical marijuana thing, it had very strict criteria that had to be met, that
Right.
Mr. McNamara had to like come up with, and we had to approve, and then he got his permit. So I think that's probably what would make the most sense. Is
I'll
this
send a
is-
draft to you. and
People
you
don't
can-
like swimming in the ocean anymore, I guess. They all want to go to have a pool.
Saltwater pools.
Yeah. Upcoming meetings, we have March 26th, 2025, which is remote. How are we looking on that, Anna? Why do we have continued to there?
I believe there are 3 items on that agenda.
All new?
2 new, 1 old, very old.
Okay. And then April 9th will be in person, and April 23rd, back to remote. What is are we going to be okay to have March 26th remote, do you think, with the state law?
I have not heard anything.
Okay. When would we know by, or what would our deadline be to, all the way up until, I guess?
Probably it's passed.
Okay. So we may have to go in person for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay. So just an FYI, if the governor, et cetera, doesn't pass the remote law to continue remote, we'd have to be in person on the 26th.
Yeah, I did see that expired, yeah.
Yeah.
Would that be moving forward? If they don't pass the remote law, is it everything in person after that?
I believe so.
Believe so, until it passed, which it could just take a while to get through legislature,
Okay.
so it could sit.
So I'm just curious, how many other committees do you know are still doing remote?
Many.
Some of them are all remote. I think, are we the only one that are doing half and half? I think we're like one of the only
As
ones.
far as I know.
Is
Yeah.
it town council that has a remote
Hybrid.
They have a hybrid.
hybrid?
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be a great way to go, but it sounds complicated.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
we're
we could
not
do it
worthy.
in this room, but, all right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.